everyone. Welcome to this second on-screen edition, on-camera edition of the cartoon episode Flashback. And seeing as though lately I've been sort of in a Mighty Ducks mood, seeing as though I'm going to be receiving within the next few days, I'm hoping, the complete series of Mighty Ducks the Animated Series from Media Bailout, courtesy of iOffer and Amazon. I decided I wanted to talk about one of my personal favorites, or at least an episode I found was kind of unique in its own way. Let's just put it this way: from a fan's perspective, and from what I'm reading right now online, courtesy of fanfiction.net, definitely set the table. And again, places like fanfiction.net, DeviantArt, and even some fan sites really have to thank this episode. You see, the episode I'm talking about is called A Traitor Among Us, and it's a very unique episode. See, we get introduced to our first duck villainess. That's right. Our first duck villainess, and a little bit of spoiler, it's the one and only time we see her in the show. The duck villainess's name is Lucretia DeCoy. And the background on her, from what we find out, is she basically was a chief lieutenant spy for Dragonis, and she had basically betrayed all the resistance, if not all of Puckworld to him. Now, what was interesting, and I will give him credit for this episode, was you at least made it clear that one of the Mighty Ducks knew who she was. And that person was Tanya. You would think maybe they would go with Mallory, but they said, no, we're going to go with the genius of the group. We're going to go with Mallory. And that's what they did. They went with Mallory with Mallard. I mean, not Mallory, but they went with Tanya. See, I got Mallory on the brain right now because she does play sort of a role. She does play a role in this as well. But Tanya, I should say, Tanya was the one that knows her. Yeah, so Tanya's the one that knows her. So that's a unique plot twist, that you have one of the ducks that know her, who know who she is. So basically, what makes this story, what makes this episode worthy of being talked about? Well, again, it's very interesting because you find out exactly somewhat how the resistance was betrayed, how the resistance got wiped out, how the world how most of Puckworld was betrayed. You kind of get the idea. You kind of get an idea of who was actually behind it, or who helped orchestrate it. And again, very unique way of doing that. So I will give them that. Very unique way. Again, like I said, very unique way of demonstrating, kind of showcasing how that all happened. Now, basically, Lucretia is brought to Earth by Dragonis because apparently he needed some expert help to try to get something called the Proteus chip. So basically, he enlists her help. He brings her to the Puckworld. And and after, of course, she deals with Tanya, kind of putting Tanya aside for a while, she disguises herself, name-wise, as Von something. I can't think of it. And basically, this is where things get interesting. Because the two ducks that get interested in her are Nosedive and Duke. And you kind of see a little bit of tidbits here and there. Of course, you have them do like sort of a Chip and Dale over gadget thing sometimes, kind of fighting over, squabbling over, who's going to get her attention, who's going to basically get her to choose on who would be, like, let's say, her boyfriend and all that. So anyway, interesting tidbit, though, throughout all of this, is you have Mallory act a little defensive, act a little jealous at times. Yeah, I I know that sounds strange, but it's true. I mean, when Lucretia as Vonda kind of, like in the second half of the episode, kind of admits to something that is supposedly true in a sense about the Proteus chip, Mallory is the first to get right in her face. And then you also have when she does get introduced in the first half of the episode, where as Duke and Duke and Nosedive are trying to, kind of try to basically impress her. You have Mallory say basically that she just may throw up. Yeah. So yeah, basically you kind of get the idea that what the writers, whether they want to admit it or not, in my opinion, were doing was they were planting the seeds in the fans' minds of exactly who Mallory could end up with. Yeah, who Mallory could end up with. And again, that planted the seeds. It did. It planted the seeds as to who Mallory could end up with. And that was a unique way of doing it. Very unique way. Very unique. But they planted the seeds. And the episode was good in itself. I mean, they do find out the truth about Lucretia. They do find out the truth about Lucretia, who she's really sided with, why she's, doing this. And they do, again, like I said, they find out the truth, and they more along the lines, find out exactly who she really was. And what's funny about this is you kind of get the idea that maybe some of the ducks, mostly Wild Wing, because you kind of notice something during the episode, it's sort of onto her. It's like something just doesn't seem right about her, right? So you kind of get the idea that maybe one or two of the ducks already know something's off, except for as well as probably Mallory. So maybe one or two, three ducks know something's off. So anyway, after Tanya gets set free by Phil, believe it or not, because she's basically strapped to the Scoretron, whatever that is, the jumbo Scoretron. Phil basically has to untie her, basically deactivates the laser wrist or whatever on her. And she goes and rescues them, and she explains, hey, this is what you guys get yourselves into when you mess with Lucretia DeCoy. And of course, like I said, Tanya goes on to tell him exactly who she is. And then it dawns on Wild Wing that he knows by name, he knows who she was. But by name, he knows who she was and knew what she had done, but we also find out that he had never seen her before until that time. So, long story short, basically Lucretia is no more after this episode. I mean, she's still alive from a continuity standpoint, but like Kennard in the pilot episode, she is now in dimensional limbo because Wild Wing made it look like she was going to portray Dragonis. So, yeah, there you go. But then the ending, though, this is spoilers for people that may or may have not seen this episode. The ending was unique in its own right. The ending basically had had Mallory, after they had defeated Dragonis, gotten the Proteus chip back or something, destroyed it or something. You have both Duke and Nosedive and Mallory back at the pond, and they're both walking towards Mallory's room, her quarters, if you will. And Mallory goes in and says, she's going to hit them all because she deserves some R&R. And then as Duke and Nosedive are going like, man, can you believe how the way we acted, and all because of a traitor? They were basically admitting to themselves how stupid and humiliating and embarrassing it was just to go gaga over eventually what was turned out to be Puckworld's biggest traitor. And then, as they say this, the doors to Mallory's quarters open up. The door to Mallory's quarters open up, her room open up, and she steps out, and oh my goodness gracious. Now you know why people like Huey Two More have a crush on this woman. or have a crush on this character or like this character. She steps out and she's basically in what I call the femme fatale look. She's got eyeshadow on, you can probably tell there's a bit of lipstick, hair is done back, she's in a dress, scarf, everything. And she's just basically standing there and flirtatiously asking both Nosedive and Duke if anybody wants to join her for a mall crawl. And then Nosedive's reaction, no reaction was like, whoa! I mean, literally, that's what the reaction is. The reaction is like, whoa! And Nosedive's like, holy smoke, Mallory's a babe! And Duke kind of like, Mal, you've been out, you're not in a hockey uniform. And of course, Mallory walks off, I guess going towards the mall, and, Duke, Nosedive's asking, hey, you want to try to fight for her affectiones? And that's how the episode ends. And it's basically asking if they want to fight for her affections, and they're both like, nah, forget it. We'll just go probably play a board game or read a book or just watch TV or something. Because they basically are saying, hey, we've learned our lesson, and in the case of Mallory, we don't want to get our butts kicked. So overall, a very good episode of the Mighty Ducks, in my opinion. And they had, out of 26, they had a very good amount of episodes in the 26 episode run. They did. They had a very good amount. Don't get me wrong about that. Don't get me wrong. They had a very good amount of episodes during that run. Nobody can take that away. I mean, when you take a look, at some of the episodes, you have to admit they were good. Like Buzz Blitzman, Mighty Duck was okay. Let's see, you had Jurassic Puck, which was okay. The first face-off and the final face-off, I mean, fill in the blank. I mean, every single one, they had some good ones. Don't get me wrong. Some were not so good, some were. And this was one of them that was, in my opinion. Really was. Especially when, like I said, the writers practically, whether they want to admit it or not, planted the seeds for fans to kind of debate who was better for Mallory, Nosedive or Duke. And believe it or not, whether anybody wants to admit this, Mallory and Nosedive shipping by fans is seen most of all. I'm not lying. Yeah, you have some Mallory, Wild Wing stuff, and you have some Mallory, Duke stuff. And heck, you even have Wild Wing Tanya, Nosedive Tanya, and Duke Tanya. But guess what? Out of all that, from what I've read, currently reading, and from what I've seen, and heck, I even printed it out, people favor Nosedive and Mallory. Why? Because both of the young ones, probably the good-looking, both of them are the young, I guess you could say, adventurous ones. Probably, basically, both of them are basically, I guess you could say, the Aladdin, Jasmine, the Kim Possible, Ron Stoppable of the group. That's what they are. And fans love that. And that's why, in my opinion, I've seen more Nosedive Mallory pairings in stories and art than I've seen Duke, than I've seen Wild Wing paired up with Mallory or Nosedive with Tanya or anything else. And again, I'm not saying, I'm not saying that Duke wouldn't be good for Mallory, because here's why fans do pair Duke with Mallory after this. And again, I think it started after this episode. Why some fans pair Duke with Mallory, it's real simple. They look at Duke as sort of being that debonair, I guess you want to use an X-Men-like reference, Gambit-like character. That debonair Gambit-like character. So they like that. So that's why you have some fans pairing her with Duke at times, because of that. And of course they will pair her up with Wild Wing, because they go by that tradition of the leader gets the good-looking girl. But to me, to close this out, this is the way I look at it. Had they wanted to go in this direction, you would have had Wild Wing with Tanya, you would have had Nosedive with Mallory, and you would have given Duke someone else. And believe me, I've thought about this. I wouldn't be surprised if they would have given Duke Lucretia. Now you might say, well, are you crazy? Hear me out. If they had continued on for another 26 episodes, or another 13 episodes in the following season, I think they would have not only found a way for the Ducks to rescue Kennard from limbo, but also rescue Lucretia and maybe use some of the season, if it was 13 or even 26 or whatever, and sort of have her be that redeeming character. You know, basically have her redeem herself. Oh, and sort of be like that anti-hero, that Catwoman-like character, if you know what I'm saying. So, you know, again, like I said, that's basically what this episode did. It basically opened the door for the possibilities that could have been had they continued the series. And basically opened the doors of possibilities in the fans' minds. Just like, I guess to put what Rowdy Reviewer and Huey Toomore said in the crossover 2 years ago, it basically, the ending basically kind of, the finale to the series kind of basically opened the doors like Buffy did, like the Buffy series finale, to the fans' imagination as to what would be if it continues. And to me, that's exactly what this does. Not just the finale, but this episode here. So, if you want to check it out, I'm sure it's here on the YT. Watch it, enjoy it. I think you guys will definitely get a kick out of it. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching this edition of the cartoon episode Flashback. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think. And I'll talk to you all later.